Welcome into Citrus Preps Podcast, live on a Thursday. A little change of schedule. It's Mike Deem. I'm Brett Knudsen. Well, had not a whole lot of help from Mother Nature. Hope everyone made it through the storm as safe as possible, and everything is a little back to normal. We were fortunate down here.
We were. We wish everybody up north in the Panhandle the best wishes, and hopefully everything's good.
Yeah, I mean, just from a athletic perspective, saw a couple of stadiums up there that are just destroyed. So it will make for some interesting things happening with games that have to be scheduled. A lot of things with the FHSAA changed last year because of the hurricane that blew through here, and we had to deal with when you make those games up, and it did affect us a little bit this week too. The game between Lecanto and Nature Coast, we'll get to that a little bit later in the podcast, but that has been moved back to later in the season. So Lecanto will not play on Friday night. Citrus was already scheduled off, so they get a little fortunate in that sense that this was already an off week for them. Yeah. So, but still a couple of games going to be played this Friday night, and it will be Seven Rivers on the road at OCA Christian Academy, and it has been a tough go for the Warriors. But talking to a big first win. Talking to Monty Van, he believes that this is some points. They think they've got some quarterback issues settled, so they believe like they've got an opportunity this week against OCA Christian on Friday night.
Yeah, the numbers tell the tale, as what Coach said, is that OCA Christian's given up 208 points, and Seven Rivers given up 232, and both of them are scoring less than 100 points on offense. So it could be a offensive juggernaut here, if you want to say that, with how much of the points they can score. It's just a matter of whether or not they're going to be able to hold OCA Christian down. OCA Christian's 2-4 overall, 1-5 for Seven Rivers. That first win, the first game out of the season. But yeah, key players, C.J. Phillips. I mean, he's got to be the one. I think they got to really rely on Wyatt Pepe.
Those are guys that are going to have to get the football, and I think, the way Monty Van talked about it was trying to settle in on a quarterback, and if you can't settle in on a quarterback, it's hard to get your guys the ball that you need to. And they're still fighting the, used to be a running team. They're trying to find a guy who can throw it around, get comfortable on offense. There's a lot of things that they have got to get ironed out, and it's just taking time.
Isn't that, that's all levels of football, including the NFL. Yeah. I mean, you talk about quarterbacks are number one. You try to find a continuity there, and you try to find a steady hand, and that's exactly what Coach Van's trying to do.
Yeah, we're working through it, trying to get it through. Still a lot of excitement. I was out at practice earlier this week, and still a lot of enthusiasm. Of course, it'll be interesting for everybody this week going at it, because at least in Citrus County, no school on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I do know some of the schools are having practice today, so that will help get ready for the weekend, and we'll just have to see. So I think for Seven Rivers, they're getting behind in games. They got to try to play with the lead, and you got to do that with the offense. So we'll see what happens with Seven Rivers on Friday night. As we mentioned, Lecanto off this week, as that game with Nature Coast has been rescheduled. And when I talked to Coach Harper and the players on Monday this week, they pretty much knew this was going to happen. They hadn't ironed it out yet, but they knew they were going to be off school Tuesday, Wednesday, no practice. And obviously, as they were looking ahead to Friday, they didn't want to go after Nature Coast with 1 day of practice and a walkthrough today. So
Coach Harper could forecast.
He knew what was going to happen, and I know Coach Allen, the AD, and Coach Peoples down there at Nature Coast, they worked together to get this thing squared away, because that's what it took, communication between both schools to settle on a date and a time and make sure this game gets played, because there will be district implications. There could be point implications. So all sorts of that. And then this is what Coach Harper and his young men had to say about what they were going to try to do this week, knowing that there would not be football on Friday night.
That's life living in Florida the last couple of years. So, we'll adjust. We'll look at the schedule, figure it all out, and, we just got to stay focused. In football, there's lots of turnovers and lots of change of way things are going, so you got to get used to those things, and this will just be another one of those obstacles that you got to overcome in this game.
Really, you just got to focus on your assignments, just keep football on your mind, make sure you're staying healthy through the off days and such, drinking water, and you know, you want to stay in your playbook too. We got an online playbook going on, so we're definitely going to be in that on our days off.
We're going to take this week just like every other week. We're going to work hard, play hard, work fast, you know, just like any other week. The 2 days is just a minor setback. Like, we don't even pay attention to it. The 2 days is just more film study for us.
More film study. I like the attitude. So here's what Lecanto is going to be doing with the schedule. They are off until next Friday night when they will travel to Weeki Wachee. That will be a key district game. Weeki Wachee will be playing Hernando on Friday night this week. That's a big one as well. And then Lecanto will take on Citrus. That game has been moved back a day to a Thursday. That's a Thursday night, October the 25th. And then right around there, a quick turnaround, then it'll be Nature Coast on Monday night for Lecanto. So obviously it's going to be a quick turnaround, and then they close out the season at Tavares. So it's going to be busy, but you know,
it's like that Monday night game. You got a Monday night game. You got
it's a Thursday night, Monday night game. They're like an NFL team.
That's
but
right.
yeah, absolutely. So it'll be interesting for Lecanto. Get this week off to get focused and prepared for Weeki Wachee, which we'll get into that more next week. That obviously becomes
big game.
A big game, a winnable game. Lecanto's still chasing a winning season right now, and that Weeki Wachee game will be huge. As we mentioned, Weeki Wachee Hernando this week is a big one as
That's
well.
Playoff implications.
Weeki Wachee. Give Citrus credit. They made Weeki Wachee look pretty average a couple weeks ago. Then Weeki Wachee last week played Nature Coast pretty tough.
Yeah, they did.
And so I think this just shows you that this district, we talk about anything can happen. Well, that's proof positive, right?
Totally
Anything
agree.
can happen. So it'll be interesting. And I'll still go by what Coach Nate Varnador has been telling me since before the season started. Weeki Wachee is going to get somebody that you don't expect.
Right.
And as we get to the point standings later in the show, you'll see Hernando is on the inside of that playoff picture. This would be a loss that would ruin it. So maybe if Coach Varnador is quite the prognosticator, this may be the week he's right.
Well, you remember who the AD is for Weeki Wachee?
Yeah, he knows a little bit about what Hernando does, Coach Veneta. He knows a lot about football.
Period.
And he's helping out the football team. He probably has a pretty good idea of what's going on. That is a very interesting matchup. And the old athletic director and head football coach at Weeki Wachee is Mark Lee. He is an assistant now at Hernando. So that's a ripe game that we don't even get to touch.
Yeah,
but
really.
that's an important one. That's a huge one, as we'll get to the point standings here in just a little bit. Our game of the week will take place tomorrow night out at Crystal River High School. The Pirates will take on Brooksville Central. If you check us out on YouTube, we did a little preview story of that game, and I think I said in there, any given Friday night, you never know. I just don't think that this is that Friday night. Coach Lowry probably don't want us to talk like that, but there's nothing going into this game that tells you Central's got a chance to play with Crystal River. You take into consideration the way Crystal River came out last week and dominated Lecanto. If they do that again this week, it should be another opportunity for them to rest some kids in the second half.
Totally agree. I mean, this should be a point-blank win W in the dub column. But like you said, Coach Lowry's not telling his players that. They're not going to overlook him. Central could surprise you. I mean, they had a lot of turnovers against Lecanto. They had a lot of turnovers in every game, and they made a lot of mistakes. If they can harness those mistakes, you have some players there. There are athletes that can do it. R.J. Harrington is one of them, quarterback for them. They're leading rushing title. But you've got too many weapons in Crystal River, and there really should be no way that Central should be able to hang with them. And even if they do in the first half, we said it'd be all year. Crystal River's a second half team. They'll come back and they'll be able to do something.
Yeah, the one thing I know Coach Lowry was not happy with was the mistakes and the turnovers Friday night against Lecanto. They had a couple of touchdowns called back because of penalties. They had a couple of turnovers, so it was not a clean game. And as he said it, his quote was, they didn't play to their standard, not the standard that he set, the standard that the players themselves set.
There you go.
And it'll be interesting. Maybe in some odd way this week helps. Not practice, you get away a little bit, you get refreshed, and then you come back Friday night and you're excited to play football. You don't care that it's a team that, you should walk.
Right.
You come energized and you go after it for the first two quarters. And if you do, you're probably going to end up picking up a pretty easy win. But that's not what the Crystal River players were talking about as I asked them about taking on Brooksville Central and the danger of a team who hasn't won a game yet. Well, there's the Seven Rivers game. We don't want to talk about that, but we're going to talk about the Central at Crystal River game, and that's interesting as well. I think moving forward, what's going to happen with that? I don't know where you go with that one. If you're Crystal River, just go get the job done. I mean,
yeah, Central they can't overlook it. They can't overlook any team, to be honest with you. But Central is one of those dangerous teams that just because they're there and they've been playing okay, they've been trying to get there. But I'm telling you,
offensively they're
struggling. Defensively, you never know what they're struggling.
Well, let's see if we can hear from them now. No, I guess we're not going to hear from them now. We're having issues with that, so we'll.
Well, let's just talk. We can talk about it. I mean, in all honesty, Coach Cliff Lowry is telling his men right now, look, we got one practice in. We got to practice on Tuesday. But we missed a day. But we still got it. We still got to be doing what we need to do to get a W in the game. If we lose to Central, this is a district game. You tell them this is a district game. You cannot overlook any opponent. What's their mantra this year? Is one game
at a time, and that's what they've done for the most part. And can they continue to do it? Will be the thing. And it's going to be interesting because they've put themselves in a really, really good position moving forward in terms of the playoffs. And can they get it done? That will be interesting.
I think they can get it done. I mean, I'm very confident that. I mean, you've got a lot of weapons on there, and then we always talk about the weapons, the two-headed sword up there, DeAndre Parker and Jaden Williams.
They've done a great job.
But the defense is really what is really remarkable. You're talking about players like Noah Bresson. You're talking about Kyle Robinson. We don't talk about him. You don't see him in the paper that much. Ashton Bosley, 51 tackles. Okay, Tyler Sandick, he's got 6 sacks. You don't see that, but most of these players that I just talked about, they play also on offense, but they're not the stars there. You don't see their names in the lights too much. They do what needs to be done, and on defense they shine a little bit. But that defensive front and that defensive linebacker core, very, very good for Crystal River. I don't think Crystal Central is going to even get past them, to be honest with you.
No, they shouldn't, and that is really the big thing moving forward is can you keep doing what you're doing and stay playing at that high level? Because it's interesting that they're pretty much almost done with the important part of playing the schedule. Yeah, so that makes it certainly an interesting rest of the schedule for Crystal River. And I mean, man, I don't know what more Coach Lowry can get out of his kids, except for, like I said, they weren't real thrilled with the way things went last week. So you're going to have to, I guess, try to get the most out of them with the idea that, okay, if we don't play our best, we can still beat them. But I think they'll come out with a good performance. Here's a look at the point standings going into this week, Mike. And the interesting part is Crystal River number 2 in the point standings, but because they're behind Nature Coast in the district standings, they would not be the number 2 seed. They right now would be the number 5 seed. So even though you see them listed right there as number 2, that's only good enough for number 5 because remember, the 4 district winners get the top 4 seeds. And right now, North Marion would be a district winner. Baker County, way down there below Zephyr Hills, Hernando, and Nature Coast, they would be potentially a district winner, although as we were looking at the standings, Orange Park is actually in first place in that district. So a lot of things can change, but for Crystal River, the most important thing for them is keep winning, and you're going to be a wild card team. That's the worst that can happen is that you're going to be 5, 6, 7, or 8, and you're going to go on the road.
Right. And, I'm going to ask you a question because I'm not really up to on that. So you got Menendez, you got Baker County, and you got Orange Park. Can all 3 of them be in the playoffs, or is it just going to be the winner and the second place?
Well, I mean, if you look at the point standings now, and I mean what it's telling me is Crystal River's got a very good strength of schedule right now. Mm-hmm. So does Nature Coast, and so does Hernando. And so if you look at that district that you're talking about, District 5A5, Baker County, Palatka, Orange Park, and Menendez. That tells me that the district winner is going to get in. It's going to be hard for another team to be a wild card. And if you look at it now, Crystal River is not winning their district, but they have a good chance to be a wild card. Hernando is not winning their district, but they have a good chance to be one of the wild cards. Zephyr Hills, depending on what happens, has a very good chance to win their district. So you look outside of that, who's next up in 5A8? Well, River Ridge is there, but they've got some work to do. I think you could see, depending on what happens with Hernando. And, of course, they've already got the loss to Citrus, potentially a second loss to Nature Coast. To me, the way it looks now, each district is probably going to get 2 teams in, a district winner and a wild card, unless Hernando can somehow beat Nature Coast. And then I think you got a chance for 3 teams from 5A7 to get in. And then it would be interesting in 5A8 or 5A5 if they would only get 1 school. So, this year, District 7 looks good. Yeah. And like I said, Crystal River is very, very solid when it comes to the postseason. If they beat Central, which they obviously should, then they've got a non-district game against South Sumter, which they should win. And then, it's Weeki-Wachee. So, I mean, they're in great shape. The only thing is with those teams on their schedule, they're not going to get a lot of point help from beating Central. So they could go down a little bit, but that's not going to make a difference, like I said, because they are in such good shape right now. They keep winning. I find it hard to believe they won't be the number 5 seed at worst.
So there's 7 teams or 8 teams?
8 teams make it. Four district winners make it, and then the top 4 wild cards. The 4 district winners host the first round of the playoffs in that region. So Crystal River, if Nature Coast wins out, Crystal River, the best they can do would be a number 5 seed and go on the road. But, the good part for them is they would be playing a district winner that has the lowest number of points. And as it stands now, it's 5A5. You would think North Marion would win their district and continue to be one of the higher-ranked point teams. Zephyr Hills also, I would think if they keep winning, they would be a highly ranked district winner. And Nature Coast, if they keep winning, those I think would be the 3 at the top. And then so you'd be looking at whoever wins 5A5. It could be Orange Park. It could still be Baker County. Obviously, could be Menendez. That would be the team that would slide probably down to the number 4, and that's who Crystal River would have to travel and go meet. None of those are exciting road trips, but
no, it's 3 hours.
We'll have to see. But
on a yellow bus.
Yeah, not fun. Maybe they'll charter.
Maybe
deep pockets, they can do that. So again, just to remind folks, that will be our game of the week coming up on Friday night. It will be Crystal River trying to stay afloat, high atop those point standings as they take on Brooksville Central. You can watch it on YouTube. Just search Citrus Preps. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at Citrus Preps, Facebook Citrus Preps. Subscribe too. And I apologize because I should have written down the name, but it was a fantastic picture on Facebook from last Friday night. A couple of ladies out on the town in Georgia having a bottle of wine, huddled around their phone, watching Crystal River on YouTube.
Really?
So that was fantastic to see.
Awesome.
So I apologize if I didn't get the name, but that was cool to see. And
thank you.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this. So you folks, friends, family, if you got to travel, go out of town. Mike was out of town.
Yep.
You can still check it out.
I watched.
That'll be the case each and every Friday, and as we kick off into basketball season. So that's where we'll be Friday night at Crystal River. We anticipate a quick broadcast. We anticipate a running clock, but coaches don't get mad at us for saying that.
Don't get mad.
We just expect that. So
we're prognosticators too.
Yeah, it should be. The numbers don't lie. There's a reason. 5 times Central's been shut out, and so it should be a big night for Crystal River. It's also homecoming, so
there you go.
The excitement of that and everything, the parades and all that stuff. As far as we know, it's still all good for Friday. In case you're wondering, Crystal River fans. And of course, Lecanto, as we said, off this week. They'll make up the Nature Coast game. Citrus was already on a bye, and Seven Rivers is at Ocala Christian.
Gotta love Florida football. I love it. Never know what's going to go on.
Certainly is interesting. There's no question about that. So that'll do it for us in our podcast. Appreciate everybody kind of staying with us this week as we had a different schedule, and hope everyone is safe and sound, relatives up in the Panhandle. And we'll see you tomorrow night from Crystal River High School as the Pirates take on Brooksville Central, kickoff at 7 o'clock. We'll see you tomorrow.